What's happening, guys? Nate here. We are talking about 4 tips that are going to help your volley, and not just your forehand volley, but your backhand volley. Kind of a universal segment here. But in my experience working with a wide range of students, these 4 tend to help quite a bit. So I'm going to share them now. And first up is the stance, okay? It goes without saying, you've got to have the continental grip. If you don't have the continental grip, that's another video. But what a lot of players, even with the correct grip and the correct know-how, often mistake one of the most basic parts of the volley, and that is the stance. All right, so now if you're playing doubles, you get to start in your desired stance. This is the perfect time to get this right, all right? So in your stance, it's really, really important that we start with the racket tip up. I know this seems kind of basic, but what I see a lot of times are volleys, stances, to where the racket head is up, but the non-dominant hand is down here at the grip. And what ends up happening is players may start here, and then they end up doing this, but what this also does is it brings the elbows into the side of the body. You can tell here as I work my hand up the throat, look at my elbow in the space from my torso here. It creates space, all right? So we wanna make sure that racket tip is up and that my hand, my non-dominant hand, is also up on the throat. A little bonus here, I find it advantageous to let the racket list more towards the backhand side, all right? So from here, if you're starting out in doubles, you have your stance, start to the backhand side for 2 reasons. One, if somebody takes the shot directly at you, kind of center mass here, you're gonna wanna defend with your backhand, and you're already here if you let the racket list. Now, it may seem contrary to belief, but starting to the backhand actually makes it easier to find your forehand volley. So if I'm from here, as I go to catch the ball, you'll see the racket just has a very simple movement to get to the correct position. Sometimes when I see players start here, their tendency is to pull the racket back as opposed to just opening the racket face up. So the stance, and what it's actually referring to, is not just your hands, but your legs, right? We want to make sure that we are wide and we are on our toes, all right? So in singles, where you're moving up to the ball and you don't get to, or doubles, let's just say if you're on the move, you're not in that set position with your partner serving or maybe or returning. As you're moving forward from that split step, I want to get wide and I want to be on the balls of my feet. And this is going to happen simultaneously. Kenny, I see you smirking, that as you hit this split step, from here the racket is up and you're ready to make that move. All right, so while we're talking about the legs, that brings us to step number 2 or tip number 2. We're talking about volleying with the legs. You've heard this a lot of times, coaches say it all the time, but let's break it down what it actually means. And what we're talking about is when you move to your volley, there should be a transfer of weight. And this is going to happen by setting your weight out on the outside leg in the corresponding direction of the volley. So meaning if I'm getting a forehand volley as a righty, I'm gonna step with my right foot first. Now from here, this is also gonna help me keep my elbow in an alignment to where I'm gonna wanna keep the racket out in front as opposed to trying to swing. A lot of times I'll see players that when they make this initial step with their right foot, they end up in kind of like this marching segment to where as the right foot goes forward, the racket goes back. But if I step out, the racket doesn't want to go backwards. It'll have a tendency to stay in front. Now here comes the transfer, the weight transfer that's going to give us the bite we need. As I transfer my weight, I want to make contact first and then I step through. If it's a backhand volley, it's going to be the same exact concept, except I'm going to step out with my non-dominant foot. So as a righty, I step out with my left. You can see the toes angled more towards 45 degrees. From here, I make contact and then I work through the volley. Now this isn't a one-stop shop. Volleys, being a good volleyer means you have the ability to adjust. There's going to be times to where you just volley off your right foot on the forehand or just off your left foot on the backhand, right? There's a lot of different footwork patterns, but the key here is to make sure your hands are out in front and you're always moving to the ball, all right? Don't wait for the ball to come to you, move to the ball. All right, tip number 3. This is maybe my favorite because I think it pays off the most for players that just have a hard time conceptualizing of what they're trying to do on the volley. So let's answer a question. Is there slice on a volley? Yes, absolutely. It's advantageous because it keeps the ball low. If I'm at net, what I want is my opponent hitting the ball up to me so I get a high volley, right? So I don't want to bounce the ball off their side because then they're hitting down towards my feet. It's a much tougher volley. So the way that I think about this, and I think the way it communicates best, is focus on operating on the outside of the ball on your volleys. You're automatically going to get slice, right? So if I have a forehand volley, I want to be there or on the outside of it. It also helps me get the racket set in the correct distance. So here you can see it's 45 degrees roughly, right? I'm not here because then that's going to have me playing whack-a-mole. I'm going to bounce the ball up. I want to keep the racket offset and aim on the outside of the ball. The same exact thing is going to be true on the backhand volley. Now, one thing with the backhand volley that's going to assist this, with your dominant hand, same thing with the ready position. Make sure the racket is up nice and high with the hand up on the throat and get the arm higher. The non-dominant hand is the unsung hero on the backhand volley. Get here, and as the ball comes through, work on the outside of it. The fourth and final tip is about what you're doing with your hands on the volley, okay? If you're trying to sting a volley, really knife it, I want you to focus on your bottom 2 fingers and your thumb, all right? And say you get a floater and the ball is up nice and high, give the grip a nice squeeze to control the racket head. And at this point, what you'll do is, as you come through to contact, you'll see there the racket head is actually finishing forward. Now, it does this because as I squeeze the grip, it controls the racket head, the blade, if you will. All right, now if you're playing soft, say I'm going for a drop volley, it's the exact opposite. As I'm getting the ball, I really want to soften the hand and allow the racket to be a bit pliable so that I can get down there and play softly through the stroke. You know, it's as if like back in science class when they drop the egg and you've got to catch it, keep the hand really soft. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. 4 tips to help your volley. Let me know how they work. Get them on the court. If one tip helps, that's a big win. If all 4, even better. But leave me some feedback. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video. And be sure to check out the Play Your Court community if you're looking for players or a lesson in your area. We'll see you next time.